Most people think of lead as a toxic metal. Too much exposure in the air, water, or food can be extremely dangerous. The EPA highlighted some of the health risks in a statement to CBN, saying, quote, "Ingestion of lead at high levels can cause convulsions, coma, and even death. Lower levels of lead can cause adverse health effects on the central nervous system, kidney, and blood cells. Even very low levels of lead in the blood of children can result in permanent damage to the brain and nervous system, slowed growth, and anemia."
But lead is also a valuable resource, essential in many of the products we use every day. Its most common use is batteries like this one. Without it, your car wouldn't start.
Lead also helps protect our society. Lead aprons shield patients from X-rays. It's used in ammunition, and also provides a safety barrier around nuclear reactors. Whether you know it or not, you use 11 pounds of lead every year. But as of this year, there will be far less lead available to meet a growing demand because of tighter EPA regulations.
They essentially dropped the ambient air standards for lead by tenfold.
In order to meet those new standards, companies either spent millions on upgrades or shut down. Doe Run was one of those companies. It put $25 million in environmental improvements into the Herculaneum smelter, the last place in the country that could take lead from the ground and process it. But that wasn't enough. So on December 31st, the Herculaneum smelter closed its doors, meaning the U.S. could no longer turn ore into 99.9% pure lead. And now, only secondary or recycled lead will be available.
In operation for 120 years, the Herculaneum smelter produced 8 to 10% of the demand for lead in the U.S. Now all primary lead will have to come from foreign sources.
As a company, we will still provide lead concentrate that can be turned into primary lead. However, that lead concentrate will be sent to other countries, mostly in Europe and Asia.
China is expected to be where much of that lead concentrate ends up. But Doe Run says that once it leaves the U.S., it's unlikely we'll be getting it back because China will have its own uses for it.
We all know that most of the raw materials that go into China don't return in that format. They're either used by the country itself to develop their infrastructure or turned into finished goods.
The folks at Doe Run acknowledge both the health and environmental dangers of lead and have even pursued a clean alternative to high-temperature smelting.
It's actually a hydrometallurgical process that virtually eliminates all the emissions.
But the EPA's changing regulatory environment made that technology simply too expensive. Doe Run says more communication from the EPA could have made all the difference.
Having some insight into the direction the EPA was taking on, in this example, the ambient air standards, and partnering with the EPA in setting those things would have been a much better condition and outcome for companies in our industry to maintain the viability of our businesses.
Lead market analyst Neil Hawks says only time will tell if the gap left by the closure of the Herculaneum smelter can be filled.
Where is the supply going to come from? Because I think globally the lead market is tightening, and we certainly have the market moving into an overall supply-demand deficit over the next 5 years or so.
Caitlin Burke, CBN News, Herculaneum, Missouri.